Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar from Poppins Payroll, Nanny Payroll Made Simple, What Pennsylvania Families Need to Know. I'm super excited to have all of you guys here. Thank you so much for joining. Sorry, we'll hear that as people are just joining in the meeting. I'm just going to do a quick overview of what we'll be going over today. I'm going to start with just a brief intro about Poppins and then introduce you to the two people who are going to be walking you through the slide deck. We'll then talk about what does over-the-table pay mean when you have a nanny. We'll talk about your responsibilities as a household employer. We'll also talk about the Pennsylvania state-specific requirements and then get into what it means to handle payroll on your own or use a payroll service like Poppins. We'll have some time at the end for questions and answers. So if you have any questions throughout the whole slide deck, go ahead and throw them in the chat in the comment section. We will answer all of them at the end. So don't be scared. Feel free to ask any questions. We're excited to answer them. And then if you stay until the end, I do have a promo code for you to get an extra free month of Poppins. So I am just going to briefly introduce our team and then let them take it from here. We're going to have Molly walking you through the deck. Molly is our payroll specialist and team lead. We're also going to have Mercedes or Merce. She is our Pennsylvania payroll specialist. So she's going to be answering all of our Pennsylvania specific questions. And then just a little bit about Poppins. We do handle household payroll for families that are employing nannies, caregivers, household managers, all sorts of things like that. We've been around since 2016, helped over 65,000 families, and we are available nationwide. We're really excited to be here and chatting with you today. And then just a note, the information that we're presenting is not legal or tax advice. Please consult a professional on your specific situation. All right. We're going to start with a bit of an icebreaker. I would love to hear from all of you, so feel free to unmute yourselves and let us know. What is your favorite baby name right now?
I'll go ahead and jump in. I have to say my daughter's name. Her name is Gracie. She's not a baby anymore. She's 12, but I've always loved the name Gracie.
Oh, that's very sweet. Okay, then I'm going to say my son's name because he's 2 and his name is Zion. We're very excited about Zion.
Okay, any other favorites? Reedy, I know you have a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously my daughter's name, Layla.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're going to dive right in. Molly, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining. So first, we're going to get into what does it mean paying over the table for a nanny or any household employee? I'll have you scooch to the next slide. Perfect. So what does paying a nanny legally mean? So to us, paying over the table is the way to do it for both you and your employee. That means anytime you're paying an employee over the table, that means you're withholding taxes, you're making sure that they get a pay stub, and you're following all the labor laws that your state requires. It ensures that also your nanny is protected, your family's fully compliant with different state and federal laws, and you're just doing it the right way. You know, at the end of the day, everybody wants to receive a W-2 at the end of the year and have the certain taxes that are withheld recorded to the IRS. So yeah, I'm gonna have you go to the next slide here. Okay, so what do you need to do to start paying your nanny taxes? So in 2025, anytime you've paid someone over $2,800 in wages or $1,000 in a quarter, you are liable for taxes. That's where Poppins comes into play. So if you're setting their hours or you're directing when an employee should be working in your home, they are considered a W-2 employee and not a contractor, such as a 1099 employee. Responsibilities that you have to kind of pay attention to as a household employer are making sure your employee gets a W-2 at the end of the year, that you're withholding and paying certain payroll taxes, which we'll dive into, reporting those to the IRS or to the state. In this case, we're talking about Pennsylvania. And then at year end, making sure that you also file a form called a Schedule H with your own personal taxes. So the risks of paying under the table. There's so much that can go into play here, and this all seems really scary, but this is why it's really important to pay above board. First, IRS penalties and back taxes. Nobody wants to get that letter from the IRS saying that they owe, a penalty or anything. Of course, with the state as well, you can run into different penalties if you're not filing timely. The loss of tax benefits. So paying into Social Security and Medicare is a big thing, and for an employee being paid cash wages, that's something that they wouldn't have. Legal exposure and liability. Protecting your employee in case they get injured. So if you're paying wages to them and you're reporting that, you can get workers' comp insurance to cover you and your home. And that's to protect you as an employer and your employee in case anything was to happen. And then, of course, unemployment. So if your employee was to file for unemployment, that's a tax that you pay into as a household employer. And that's a benefit that your employee could have. Do they need to apply for unemployment down the road? So your responsibilities as a household employer. This is going to be our next session. So before you hire an employee, we recommend to everybody starting with a contract. A contract is going to be the best thing to protect you as an employer and for your employee. It's setting out transparency about their job, their pay, expectations you might have around your house, and just a really good starting point for anybody who's employing someone in their house to have. Things to include in that nanny contract or, household employee contract. Doesn't have to be just for nannies, but basic details, talking about their pay and overtime and when their work schedule is going to be, different benefits to them. So getting into PTO and holidays, different responsibilities that their job is going to include, policies and procedures, and then a termination clause. All of this is really good basic information. And we also have on our website a place where you can pull up a contract. So you have a really good starting point. And it's been helpful to so many families that we've helped. Once you hire your employee, one of the very first things that you'll need to do is set up your federal EIN number and then state reporting. With Pennsylvania, as we'll get into with this, there's so many different accounts that you have to obtain and make sure you're staying compliant in Pennsylvania. But as it says here, first thing is EIN, your federal identification number, registering those state and local accounts and setting up those tax withholding accounts, and then reporting your new hire to the state of Pennsylvania as well, which needs to be done within 15 days of their hire. So federal and state taxes. So we're going to get into federal first. The first part of federal taxes that not a lot of employers are aware of is you have to pay 7.65% to Social Security and Medicare. That's something you pay on top of the gross wages to your employee. Your employee also has 7.65% withheld for Social Security and Medicare. This is what we call FICA taxes. So altogether, out of everything you're going to be paying in taxes, you have a total of 15.3% just in FICA taxes that we would be remitting quarterly for you. On top of that, we have federal unemployment tax, which is just an employer tax, and that is 0.6% on the first $7,000 you pay to your employee. Perfect. So how will taxes affect take-home pay? This is kind of the part everyone doesn't want to hear about their payroll, but nobody gets paid their gross wages. Everyone gets paid their net amount, which is everything after taxes. So of course, first you're going to have Social Security and Medicare that's withheld from your employee's paycheck. If your employee chooses to have any federal income tax withheld, that would be the next. And then state and local income taxes. With Pennsylvania, there's quite a few of them, but that's what we're here for. So awesome. So we wanted to touch base about nanny shares. Nanny shares is a really common way that people like to employ nannies. Same kind of procedure. You need to have separate accounts though, if you have a Poppins Payroll account. What that's going to ensure is each family is responsible for the wages that they pay their employee. So first, each family would need to get an EIN. They would need to pay their share of the nanny's wages, register for their Pennsylvania accounts, withhold and remit those taxes quarterly, provide a W-2 to the employee at the end of the year, along with preparing a Schedule H for themselves, submitting your new hire reporting to the state of Pennsylvania after 15 days or before 15 days, and then of course complying with any employment laws for Pennsylvania and on the federal level as well. And then just to kind of shout out there too, that we handle nanny shares very easily. Everything is separate in the Poppins system between the two employers, but it's really easy to get everything set up for both families with us. And we're going to pass it over to Mercedes, who's going to get into all the wonderful Pennsylvania things.
All right, let's dive into Pennsylvania requirements. So in Pennsylvania, most employers must register for 4 to 5 separate tax accounts, each with different agencies. So that's going to include your state income tax, your state unemployment, earned income, local service, and then depending on the address, a Philadelphia tax account. Like for example, if you live just outside the Philadelphia city limits, but your employee lives in the Philadelphia city limits, you would still withhold Philadelphia and require a Philadelphia tax account and a local service tax account. It's important to determine your local tax rates because those are based off both you and your employee's address, and that determines your political subdivision. All right, next slide. So once you obtained all those tax accounts with the appropriate agencies, you'll be responsible for calculating and withholding state income, earned income tax or city withholding, local service tax, and then as an employer, you'll be contributing to state unemployment taxes. And then your earned income tax and local service tax rate, again, is just based off you and your employee's address. So I know that's a lot to digest, but that's what Poppins is here to step in. We'll help determine these requirements so you don't have to navigate them alone. All right, as Molly stated before with new hire reporting, it is required to report within 15 days. And other requirements for Pennsylvania, currently there is no statewide paid family leave program. Many states are beginning to implement these programs, and just rest assured, Poppins continuously monitors tax and labor changes nationwide to keep our employers compliant. Some other local requirements apply for sick time. So that's going to be in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. They passed a Workers' Bill of Rights, which include mandatory paid sick leave accrual. With Poppins, you can enter in and track and manage the sick time accrual along with PTO policies as well. So I know that's a lot of information, but the bottom line is simple. With Poppins, we support you through every step in state local registration, the new hire reporting, and then ongoing compliance. Back to you, Molly.
Awesome. So in summary, there is a lot to do with being a household employer, and we absolutely know how complicated it can be. So we kind of talked about here, what does it mean to be a household employer? So if you're paying over $2,800 in 2025 or $1,000 in a quarter, you're a household employer. We talked about your responsibilities of withholding and paying certain payroll taxes, registering those accounts with federal and state so that you can remit those taxes, new hire reporting, and then of course at year end issuing a W-2 and Schedule H. We talked about the Pennsylvania requirements. So there's quite a few accounts that you have to obtain, but Poppins does that heavy lifting for you so that you don't have to worry about doing that yourself. And then of course, taxes that must be paid and withheld. We handle that for you. So at the end of each quarter, Poppins goes in and we file and remit those taxes so that you don't have to worry about that. Perfect. So we're going to kind of talk about, again, what you would have to do compared to what Poppins would do for you. So again, really, if you do this yourself, there's quite a lot you have to keep track of. And being a household employer, you have a million other things that you have to do. We'll admit that person. Thanks for whoever did that. But there's quite a lot of things you have to do as a household employer on top of, your normal job. You have a family, you have kids, whatever it might be. There's a lot you have to do. So with Poppins, we take care of everything. We're going to set up, if you don't already have, an EIN for you in your Pennsylvania accounts. We will report your new hire to the state within 15 days. We'll set up all of the registration for those Pennsylvania accounts as well. And then we calculate the taxes from your employee's payroll. We'll make sure that your federal and state payroll returns are filed quarterly. We have a way within our system to manage a PTO and sick time leave if you want to set that up for your employee. And then, of course, at year end, we do everyone's favorite stuff. We get those year end documents ready. We'll prepare your employee W-2 and then a Schedule H that needs to be filed with your personal 1040 when you file your taxes. And lastly, just kind of going over our pricing here at Poppins, we're $49 a month. That includes you running payroll with us for one active employee. For every additional employee that you add to your profile, it's $10 a month, 10 additional dollars a month. So if you have 2 employees, 59, so on from there. We offer a free trial, which at the end of this, Hannah's going to be giving everyone an additional free month with a code. You can cancel anytime with Poppins. That's my favorite part about us, is you're not bind into a contract with us. We get that having a nanny, having a household employee, that changes over time. So you can cancel anytime and you're not stuck in a contract for the remainder of the year. And then trusted support. I actually take it back. This is my favorite thing. We are always here for you. So if you call in, you're going to get somebody on the phone right away with Poppins. We understand there's 1,000 different questions that come up, and we want to make sure that we're accessible for you guys anytime you have questions. So by phone during our business hours, you'll always be able to reach somebody. And then, of course, by email, we're always available too, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Awesome. So to get started, first and foremost, we can get kind of a checklist together for you. But you need your nannies or your employees' basic information. That's going to be their name, their address, social security number, date of birth, basic information that you would need to have when you're starting a new job. You would need to know their pay rate and when they're going to be starting. And then if you already have an EIN, that would be a great starting point too, to make sure you have that before registering. And of course, if not, that's the very first thing that we'll do for you at Poppins. Lastly, setting up with Poppins really only takes about 15 minutes. If you have all of the information, such as your own, your employees, everything takes about 10 to 15 minutes to get set up. So it's really seamless to get everything going. Awesome. And then we're going to jump into just a Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer some.
Feel free to come off mute and throw them out there.
Yeah. Or type them in, whatever you want to do.
Hi, I have a question about a contract. So you said there was a template. Do you recommend that getting checked by like a lawyer, or do you have to get it notarized, and anything I should know about the contract?
Yeah, great question. So the contract's on our website. It's just a basic contract of what we found helpful for a lot of other employers. To us, nothing needs to be notarized. This is really just a simple contract that both you and your employee would sign, fill out together. You can absolutely get it notarized. I have talked to a few other employers that just felt better having it a little bit more of a legal binding to it. So really up to you, but nothing's required by Poppins for you to have that notarized or, done with like a lawyer.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Any others? Was there any?
You mentioned that there were, for Pennsylvania specifically, a lot of different accounts. Can you remind me, do you sign up for those accounts, or what work would I need to do on my end?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, so just depending on who the collector is, because with Pennsylvania, there is actually well over 26 collectors that we would possibly remit the tax to. So we do register you for all those tax accounts. For Philadelphia, I may need, assistance in registering those tax accounts. And then also to chime in on the contract thing. Sorry, I didn't chime in earlier. For Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, there is a required contract with the state for household employees. And that information could be is located on our resource page. Yeah, but it's just a simple contract on the Philadelphia website.
And once we're done with the session, I'll send over a link to that sample nanny contract along with the recording to this and some other things.
I kind of mentioned this too a little bit in the a little bit earlier, but our support team's amazing here. So if anybody has questions after this, we're closed for the day. We're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're based out of Boulder, Colorado. But give us a call tomorrow if you have any questions. Our team would be more than happy to answer any questions about, you know, nanny questions, being a household employer, Pennsylvania. We can answer anything for you. And then also we can be reached at info@poppinspayroll.com.
Molly, did you see Becca's in the chat?
So what information does PA require when submitting a new hire report that you mentioned? Great question. So this is one of the first things that our team does after you start paying wages to your employee. And we have all the information that we need. It's really as simple as your employee's name and their social security number that we do in this new hire reporting and submit it to Pennsylvania. So really easy. We have to do it pretty often for our employers anyways, because we have a lot of different employers that are hiring new people. So for us, it's something that we just do as a bulk file to all of our states. But really simple. It's just really their name and then their social security number, which we get from you during the onboarding process.
Molly, I have a question for you. If I'm thinking about hiring a nanny, but I'm not ready to like officially make that step and start interviewing and writing up contracts and stuff, like where should I bring Poppins in at that point?
Absolutely. So, we don't really do anything with finding you an employee, right? We're strictly just the payroll processing and tax remitting for you. But you can always give us a call. We can kind of point you in the right directions of what you should be looking for, kind of give you more info about the nanny contracts too, because having that contract in place, even when you're starting to look for an employee, is really beneficial. You can kind of lay out if it's you just hiring an employee, or maybe you're doing it with your spouse, whoever it might be, having that contract in place so you know exactly what's important to you as an employer when you're looking for an employee. So we can definitely help in that aspect, but definitely, contact us as soon as you have someone hired. You can get signed up same day and start running payroll as of today. So let's say tomorrow is your employee's start date. You could sign up today and get everything ready for tomorrow.
Molly, what happens if I've had a nanny for a while and I haven't been paying over the table? Where do I go there?
Great question. And I think this is always really daunting to a lot of people because people do that. You're thinking a nanny, it could be like a babysitter or anything like that, but really a nanny is a lot more than just a babysitter, And when it comes to paying somebody as a nanny, you're probably paying them a lot more than you would just, a 15-year-old babysitter who's coming over for the night. So we see this a lot. People come to us all the time and they're like, I've been paying my employee since June of this year and I've paid, $13,000, whatever that number might be. We have a separate team here at Poppins that helps employers get caught up. And so that they can get everything, we can get everything back filed for them, get the W-2s ready for them and everything. So we have a whole separate service here that we can assist with that. I do want to mention there is additional fees for us to do that prior wage work, but a simple phone call to us, we can definitely get you a quote and let you know what that looks like.
Awesome. Joyce, I'm so sorry to hear about you witnessing a car crash. I hope everything is okay. Molly, she did drop a question in the chat too.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. How do you handle guaranteed hours overtime? Great question. So we have different line items within your payroll where you can do different hours. So first we have a regular time, overtime. We have an additional rate line. And then we have a place where you can do other amounts, which is going to be like a bulk amount. So if you do have different rates that you're paying your employee, let's say, half of the day they're earning $15 an hour, but sometimes two of the kids are there and it goes up to $20 an hour. We definitely have different rates so that you can, allocate all of the hours accordingly. Nanny works for 2 nannies like a nanny. Yeah, absolutely. So we can definitely support nanny shares. What I like to tell all employers is with a nanny share, everything is separate in our system. And the reason for that being is if you as one person's paying an employee, that tax liability is just going to go on you. You wouldn't want that tax liability to go on just you. If I'm just paying all the wages to this employee. So everything would be separate there, but our system does allow you to have multiple, line items so that you can pay different rates. And like we were talking about with nanny shares, if the nanny is watching just one of the kids and then 2 kids come in after school, whatever it might be, and you pay a different rate, you can definitely put that additional rate in. Does that answer your question?
I have a question.
Sure.
So does Poppins handle something like retirement or health insurance? Should the employee want to offer that to the nanny?
Yeah, great question. So we hear this quite often. We don't have a way in our system where we will siphon off an amount for like a healthcare, but your employer can do like a reimbursement if that's what they want to do. So let's say they want to give you a reimbursement of $100 a month, and that would be non-tax so that it could be a part of what you put towards healthcare. That's something you can also do in our system is a non-taxable amount. We've also partnered with a company called Take Command. Take Command works just with household employers, just like Poppins does, but for healthcare. And they have a ton of great options to work with. And then I'm so sorry, you said besides healthcare, I'm so sorry, did you say retirement?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have anything for retirement right now, but we do have some options that employers can look into. It would just be something they do outside of the Poppins payroll system.
Okay.
Yeah. And Christine, if you have any other questions about that too, I'd be more than happy to talk to you more in depth with that. We could go on and on about healthcare and the 401k. So feel free to reach out anytime and I'd be happy to help with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Take Command. Yep, just take and then Command. They're great. And just like I was saying, they work with household employers just like we do for payroll and taxes.
Any other questions? Okay, well, if you happen to think, oh, Joyce has another one.
Yeah, we're the most common families.
Great question.
Yeah, really great question. Honestly, what I see a lot is people starting to set up their tax accounts without, any guidance. That can get really messy. So for an example, if you're setting up a withholding account with Pennsylvania, you could be setting up a withholding account, but it's really important to make sure you're setting it up as a household employer and a sole proprietorship. There's so many different types of businesses that are out there, such as an LLC, or you're running a corporation, or, it's really easy to mess up kind of the type of withholding account you need, or even for unemployment too, same thing. And that's why it's, what's really helpful with us is getting it set up correctly the first time, and that's what we do for you is setting it up. But I see that quite often. People come to us, they're like, I have all the existing account numbers, and then we go to file for the first time and it's set up for a different type of entity. So great. What does the nanny need to do to enroll? So it actually starts with the employer setting up their account. The employer will enter in their employees' information. So nothing with the nanny or the employee at the first part of the sign up. The employee does get something called an employee cubby once everything's established and set up. And that's for the employee to log in. They'll be able to, my goodness, they'll be able to access all of their pay stubs and view everything in one place.
Just
Great.
a quick plug. If you are an employee that has used Poppins before and you are no longer with the family, but you're sort of like going to a new family and you get them onboarded onto Poppins, we do offer you a gift card as a sort of thank you.
Oh yeah, our referral program. And I'm so sorry, I saw that question pop up and then I did not catch it. Did anybody else catch that question?
I see
Yeah,
it. It
I
is,
see it.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's LLC recommended. Do I and my husband both need to be the employers or just one of us?
Yeah, great question. So you're not an LLC. As a household employer, you're a sole proprietorship and a household employer. So one of the first things we do is set up an EIN, and we actually classify you as sole proprietorship, and then we can reclassify it as a household employer. So it's just one person employing one employee, or multiple if you end up having multiple. So no LLCs, and it's just one person. If you do have your spouse, and of course, it's probably you both paying an employee together, you can list the spouse within your profile so that they can call in and verify things, make changes if needed. But other than that, it is just the one person employing somebody.
So
The biggest benefits. Yeah, great question. So, first and foremost, at the end of the year, your employee would get a W-2, which is going to go over, all the taxes that were withheld. They're paying into Social Security and Medicare, so they get that benefit later down the road. But also, it's keeping you compliant as an employer. I kind of look at it from that place first. If you're paying somebody over those thresholds of $2,800 within this year, you don't want the IRS to come back and go, where did this money go? Where is all of this money going to? Where was it paid to? Everything's compliant when you're running through a payroll system. So that's one of the biggest benefits. And then also that allows you to have workers' comp, like we talked about as well. So if you're paying somebody legally, you're allowed to have workers' comp in your home, which is going to cover you in case anything, on the job happened to your employee. And that's another really big benefit to you and your employee that for if anything was to happen, you're covered by that workers' comp insurance.
And then we do have FSA receipts. So like if
Oh,
your
yeah.
offers dependent care, you can submit for reimbursement for that dependent care with Poppins.
Yeah, great point. Workers' comp is something you would have to do separately. We've partnered with another company called Blue Insurance. And we can put that in the comments there so you can have a link to them. And just like we were talking about with Take Command Health, Blue is the same way. They work just with household employers to get workers' comp. And they're another great service that we definitely recommend. Great questions.
yeah, these were all really great questions.
Yeah.
Any others? Okay.
Great question. So if they work at multiple homes, so just for like a little bit more context with that, are they going, do they qualify for workers' comp? So each household would need to have workers' comp. With that being said, are they working at multiple homes and there's different people paying them, or would it just be one person paying them, Joyce? Multiple, perfect. So that would kind of go into like a nanny share scenario. So it would be separate from each family. So if they were working in your home and you have workers' comp, that workers' comp would just cover your home and you as the employer and your employee working in your home. But for one-off jobs, we would recommend kind of looking at that as like a nanny share situation, which everything would be separate between each of the households. Yeah, of course. And Joyce, too, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. I'd be more than happy to jump on a call with you.
Awesome. All right. Any last ones? Okay. Well, if you happen to think of anything from here or just whenever, please feel free to send us an email at info@poppinspayroll.com. I will include this in the email that I send you after, so you'll have it, as well as our phone number. As Molly said, we're open from 8 to 5 Mountain Standard Time, and they would love to answer your questions and get you taken care of.